Hello, everyone. This is Ed Reniger, and welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. My guests today are my friends Richard and Angela Searcy, and they own my hardware store. Well, it's not actually my hardware store, it's their hardware store, but it's the one that I frequent and I cater to. And when I need something of a hardware nature, they're the ones I go to. And they're located in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where I used to live. And even though I'm 45 minutes away from there, I still go to their hardware store. So I am really, really happy to have them on the podcast and welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
So, can I'm not sure people know what a hardware store is. Let's assume that people don't know I think they know what a big box hardware store is,
Sure.
but they don't know what a local hardware store is in a local community on a corner where you can walk in and you can get a cold drink, sit down and have a talk with your neighbors.
Yeah. That's one. That's part of it. Sure. I mean, I think you got a good start there. Um,
You can grab, nuts, bolts, and screws by the handful, and you don't have to buy the whole box like you would at the box store. Get a key made, get an extra key made for your house.
Yeah,
Wander around and
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
wander around and find bird seed, a new shovel. Oh, I needed a new wrench or a new screwdriver. A plethora of things that you're like, oh, I didn't know you guys had that.
I got
Big.
an ant infestation. I need something to take care of my ants, or
Right.
I got mice in my.
Sure. And all those things, all those scenarios, they happen about every day. And the biggest difference is they walk in and they look at us or one of our employees and they say, I have this or I need this. And we go, sure,
Can you help me?
sure. And we take them and we get them what they need, hopefully. Where at other places, they may not get recognized or even spoken to. So that's what a hometown hardware store is in my mind. We have all the same things, but when you walk in, it's almost like family. We treat you, we talk to you, we try to help you, and
Yeah,
we like maybe the first time you came in.
yeah, that's exactly right. I knew the first time I came in, which was right after I had moved to North Wilkesboro, I could tell by just the look of the place that this was going to be my hardware store because it's not fancy. It's
Mm-mm,
all not all dolled up.
mm-mm,
It doesn't have nice shiny linoleum floors.
mm-mm.
It's a it's a real hardware store. And give us a little history of the store. How when did it start? Because I know you all took it over, what, 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
Uh, Almost 10 years ago. It's been a little over 9.
Yeah.
Angie, you want to give the start with the history?
Um, Building dates back to like 1904, 1905. Mr. Eller was a poultry processor, and the building was used for basically poultry processing. I think he also did eggs,
Yes, I think you did. People who buy eggs,
herbs,
from local people.
and a sundry of type things. He was there till maybe early 1940s when he moved to a larger facility in town. But basically, local farmers would bring their barnyard chickens and turkeys, herd them into downtown North Wilkesboro, and they would be processed inside our building.
And
It's a
we and when you
two-story
say
building.
and when you say herd, you really do mean herding.
Really,
Especially
literally.
the turkeys for
Yes.
sure, because
Yeah.
turkeys are they will herd. They could you can move them in a herd. Chickens maybe not so much. Maybe they were in a coop, but they were brought right to the store through those front doors that you've walked through many times, and they would buy them and they would take them upstairs in the store and process them. And
Pack them on ice.
yeah, what the way they did it was they would basically bleed them. They would slice their necks, bleed them out, leave all the organs intact, drain the blood, pack them on ice, and they would ship them to New York. And they call that a New York dressing. And they still do that. They still do that today. They still call that type of, now maybe everybody doesn't do that, but it's actually a pretty efficient way and actually it sounds sort of like, wouldn't it spoil? It's got all the organs and stuff, but it's actually an efficient way and very clean way. But yeah, that's the history how that building got started, but not the hardware store.
Hardware store started sometime in the 40s. Mr. Yates was looking for, let's say, a way to, Richard, how would you say this?
Mr. Yates was a local
Moonshiner.
and he wanted a way to provide supplies to his friends, maybe that needed to be able to produce moonshine. And so he decided to open a hardware store. And he did. And so, let's just say what it was. It was sort of a front for a moonshine operation, which was sort of common back in the early 40s. And, they're just trying to make a living.
Post prohibition, it was, I
Yeah.
guess during prohibition, there was a lot of moonshining going on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And of course, Wilkes County's got a huge history of it,
Yeah.
So anybody that grew up in Wilkes County or the surrounding areas probably shouldn't be shocked. Yeah. So yeah, it was he created a hardware store so they could get their supplies. It was been a hardware store ever since. So
We actually bought it in 2015 from Gerald Lankford, and he has actually passed down a lot of the history of what he knew about the building itself and some of the stories to us, which has been a blessing. A lot of pictures obviously do not remain from 1905. So the stories that Gerald has shared with us has been very valuable.
Yep.
Well, I'll try to include some of those. So you send me some pictures. I'll try to include those. I'll figure out a way to include those so that people see what we're talking about.
Okay.
Wilkes County Hardware. I have to ask this question. Are there still any feathers left over from the old days?
Well, no, but a former an older employee
Wayne.
Wayne.
Oh yeah, Wayne.
You remember Wayne?
He used to say that because he'd worked there. He had retired from Lowe's, but he worked there at Wilkes Hardware before we bought it for about 20 some years. But he said that he had seen feathers falling from the second floor. Now I don't know if that's true or not. And we joke about the chicken ghost.
We've had a few strange things
had
that happen.
A few little strange incidences, but
like what? Now I'm really curious. What are these strange? I mean, this is small town life, isn't it?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to give a condensed version here. So a few years back, this was before COVID, at one of the Apple festivals, we the gentleman that had the store before Gerald did, okay, that would have been Mr. Barlow, Harvey. He was the locksmith. He had the hardware store before that. He has an apartment above his store, which is right next to the hardware store. And he had some friends or a friend that he let stay there. for a few months. And this gentleman, he was he was Asian descent, okay, and he was a
He
what-
said
incarnated
reincarnated
Buddhist monk.
monk.
Oh my.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. And then he was
In
talking
North
about
Wilkesboro.
state. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But so
He was visiting during Apple Festival.
on Apple Festival Day, he's sitting there and he's talking, and we're sort of getting to know him and chatting and everything. And he's telling us about how he had spent a few months up in the apartment, which was right next to our building, right? And he said he had heard noises, chains like they were rattling
in the middle of the night.
and things, and he swore he saw feathers, da da da. Now, maybe he was pulling our leg. We don't know, but it makes for a good story. Knowing the history.
And there's some people who want to hear that story because then it makes their day.
Right. And then we did okay, so and then another one, I don't know if it might have been a really big chicken. I don't know, but I was there. It's not long after we bought the store. I was there one night. It was dark. It was probably in the winter. And
we had a really hard day. It was like Monday, long truck day. The internet was out. Everything went wrong. And he went back after dinner to kind of reconcile some things and try to.
So I'm there
at
the counter. I'm at the counter. It's dark outside.
9:30, 10 o'clock.
9:30, 10 o'clock that evening. I've got the lights on in the building, so I really can't see outside, right? I mean, because it's dark.
Yeah.
And if you know, I don't know, this will explain to people because they don't know. We have a big padlock on the outside of our front door. When we leave at night, we padlock it. So we come in the back door. That's how we go in and out. So I'm standing there at the register doing some stuff, minding my own business, da-da-da. And all of a sudden, I hear this noise. And the bell, we also have a bell on the front door. It's like a shop bell, ringing, ringing, ringing. The door's padlocked. The door's shut. It's been shut for hours now. And all of a sudden, I hear this noise and the bell rings.
And the bell rings when the door's open.
Well, when the door moves, the bell rings, right? Correct.
Right.
The door is padlocked in a locked position, and I hear something that sounds like somebody hit it. And so I immediately look out the door, the window's there, and I'm thinking, oh, somebody has walked by and whatever. There's nobody there. Nobody. Let's just put it this way. I quickly got finished doing what I needed to do and left. Because
the chicken ghost showed up.
So we talk about the chicken ghost. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. So I mean, who knows? It's an old building.
Yes, and we've had paranormal experts want to come
they want to
spend the night at our building, and we're like, oh,
no,
it's okay.
No, we're good.
We're good.
We're good. We don't.
The last thing you want is that kind of curiosity, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, curiosity is good, but I'm just like, this is really not what we're shooting for here.
Well, curiosity is good, but why don't you buy a screwdriver?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I've been places where, they tell ghost stories, and living over here in Winston-Salem, I go over to the cemetery next to the Home Moravian Church over in Old Salem, and I walk. That's where I walk in the morning, and I wait until dawn because what I say is, go sleep at dawn. And so that's when I go and walk. I don't want to be there, and it's not that I'm superstitious, but I don't know who's going to be in the graveyard at night. There could be people sleeping there. I mean, it's
true.
You don't know. So I think those are good stories, and having been in the store, I can see how that happens. So how did how did you come to decide that you wanted to own a hardware store? I mean, it's not like you have had, that's not something you had as a child. Says, oh, I just love hardware stores. I want to own a hardware store when I get older.
No, 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 no. So it's all my fault. It's all on me. I'm the one that. So I was working for a company, a major paint company, that dealt with a large big box store, and I had been there about 20 some years. I was a territory manager and doing that, and I was just, I guess, for lack of a better term, I was burnt out. Okay, and I realized I needed to do something else. But I was thinking I wanted to go and work for another company. I wanted to be an account manager. I want to do this. I want to do that in that same realm, right? So a friend of ours that I grew up with, it just happened. I worked. Mark Cook and I were coaching soccer, some youth soccer. Their son was on our team, and so I'm walking out to the fields one day, and Arthur, this friend, said, "Hey, I know you're looking for something different to do, maybe different career. Dad being Gerald Langford, wants to sell the hardware store, and I think you should buy it." And I went, "What? Have you lost your mind? I don't buy a hardware store." He's like, "Oh, I think it'd be great." And I'm like, I don't know. So I really didn't think anything else about it. I came home and I was like, "Hey, Angie, guess what? I was talking with Arthur, and his dad's going to sell Wilkes hardware and da 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 da." And she's like, "Huh? Really? What?" I don't know. So didn't really say a whole lot about it for maybe a week or so. And then a good friend of mine, and as well, Mark Cook,
Mm-hmm.
I said something to Mark about it, and Mark was like, "Hmm." Now, Mark, they've had their family business for
Ever.
75
Yeah.
years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I was talking with Mark, talking with Angie, and Angie was like, "Well, I guess we could at least talk about it." So Mark, we start asking questions, and I start, asking questions and diving into it a little more. And this probably goes on for what, 2 or 3 months?
Mhm.
2 or 3 months. I mean, I'm talking to Gerald. I'm talking to anybody I can talk to, whether they've owned their own business or whatever. And I'm trying to get financials, and I'm doing this, and I'm talking to the sales rep that we buy from. He bought from, and he's a friend too. And we're looking at it, and Mark keeps telling me, he says, "I'm going to keep telling you, you can't do this until I think you can." He goes, "I'm going to tell you you're crazy." Okay. So we dig into it. We dig into it. And finally one day Mark goes, "I think you can do this." And I was like, Are you serious?" He goes, "I think this could be done." He goes, "I think you could really do this." So Angie gets on board with it. She's still teaching at the time. She's still got her real job. And so we make it happen, and I leave my other job, and um, you know, I've been in sales, but I never owned my own business. And so
Well,
there we go.
I did the same thing. It was, I was in my 40s. You were in your 40s, right, when you did this?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a time when a lot of people make these kind of large changes in their life. They've spent 20, 25 years doing a job, and they say, "Time to do something different." And I was almost 42 when I started my consulting business, having never been a consultant and never owned a business. So I
Mhm.
understand that. The advice that Mark gave you, "I'm going to tell you you can't do it until I tell you can." That is really brilliant. I have never heard that before, but I think that is one of the wisest things I've ever heard. And I'm going to use that because I think there are a lot of people who have dreams
Right.
and they think all they need is the dream and then they'll go do it. But there's so much that goes into starting something like a new business like this that you should not think that you're actually going to follow through with it until you cross some indeterminate barrier or boundary that says, okay, I think we can do this. Do you remember what that was that convinced the two of you that we can do this?
Basically, we had been looking at, we'll call them financials. It was basically legal pads with numbers written down on it. That was the accounting system. And I remember we had sat down with Steve Foster, who's our oral rep, and I've known Steve for a long time too. And Steve was not, people would say, oh, he's the rep, so he's going to try to tell you because it's going to benefit him, but not necessarily. He was very cautious too, because he's like, if you do this and you go out of business, it doesn't help me at all. It actually hurts me. So he said, I need you to be successful. So there was just this conversation, and Mark kept looking at things, and he kept comparing it to sort of his business, where he says, I've got probably 45-ish or more vendors that I have to deal with, and everything. He goes, and you're basically going to be buying most everything from like one or two vendors. He goes, yeah. How easy is that going to be? And he was like, that will make things a whole lot more simple. And then he goes, and then you can just, he was just getting excited because he was thinking of all these different things, and he's not in the, he's more in sporting goods, right? He's not in hardware, but sales is sales, sort of. Retail is retail.
Right. Absolutely.
And I remember when he said, I think you can do this. And I think my words to him were, are you sure? Are you sure? Because in my mind, I wanted it to happen.
Yes.
But I was like, because I'm going to be leaving a job where I'm getting I've got this corporate job, I've got a salary, everything, everything's been, and then I'm stepping into something, and I'm like, I have no clue. I can sell stuff. Don't get me wrong, I can sell things, but I don't know all things.
That's not the hard part.
Yeah. So I remember feeling a little bit of relief, and then a little bit of panic, almost sort of like when we had our son. I can remember bringing him home, and then I looked at Angie, and I was like, what have we done?
Yeah.
What have we done?
That first night,
I was like, what have we done? Mm-hmm. But you get over it, and look, I don't really have any regrets. Looking back, I would do a few things differently, but I did the best that I knew to do at the time, and we're still here, and we're still trying to grow. And the great thing is, when Angie finally was able to retire from teaching, and she didn't retire to come to work in the hardware store by any means. She was retiring so she could take care of her aging grandparents. And then when all that was done and whatnot, and they had passed on, here she is, and she's in a very integral part of every day. It's not my hardware store; it's our hardware store.
Oh, that's clear.
And I love it, because first 4 years, I was probably making a lot of the decisions. She was trying to do everything else, raise her family, take care of her grandparents, have a job. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go, right? And then when she was able to, I was like, oh, all right, I got some help. And some people go, you like working with your wife? You like being with her every day? And I'm like, absolutely. Now I get it. Some people can't do that. Some people can't do that. They can't be with their wife every day. And that's fine.
You two are very compatible.
Well, we've been together a long time, so
yeah, we have.
So, Angie, what's the best thing about running a hardware store?
You know, I think it's the people. Just and the when I retired, this is one of the things that I think Richard told me. He said, "You're going to get to know everybody really quickly." And that was a very true statement. We have our regular customer. He said, "You're going to figure out who our regulars are really quick." And it's very true. We have folks that we see sometimes once a day, sometimes more than once a day, especially if they're working on a job. And then sometimes we will go a couple of weeks and we're like, where is, such and such? They've not been here for a week or so.
Where's Ed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where's Ed? Ed's not been here in a few weeks. I wonder what he's doing. Where
And then he
he's
pops up.
traveling. And then there you are.
Yeah, then I show up.
But I think it is the community and just getting to know the people and just being part of the greater downtown. That's been a blessing, just to get to know all the different businesses and kind of to know what everybody is doing and contributing to the downtown community.
Well, just in the short time I lived there, there was a lot of change downtown, but you all are kind of an anchor on one end of town. You're kind of an anchor, and you'll always be there because everybody needs you.
We hope.
And I think they expect us to be there, whether it's pouring the rain and
Yeah.
it's going to be 3 inches worth of rain or,
Foot of snow.
16 inches of snow. They expect us to be there and, open when they don't have power. So they look for us to be there. But I think also at the same turn, they want us to take a vacation for a few days. So, which is good.
Do you give vacations?
Not like we used to.
No,
Not like you used to.
no, not like we used to. But
It's harder to do that when you run your own businesses because we don't have
we don't have a large staff.
we don't have a large staff at all. And a lot of, I guess, I don't know. I mean, a lot of businesses might not count, the owners, they may not have as much involvement or whatever. I want to be involved as much as I can. When we first started out, yes, we had more employees, but they were older and aging and they wanted to, they were at the end of their career and we've hired, but I want to hire somebody that wants to be there. I'm just not wanting to put a body in like, a big box store might do just to have a body. So we count ourselves. We're part of coverage. I mean, if you want to know where I'm at Monday through Saturday,
He's there.
I'm at the store open to close.
Yeah, I know that.
She's there a lot, but I want her to be able to have more flexibility and be able to come and go, maybe do other things. And, like her pottery that she likes to do. She's so she need, she's not tied to it. She is, but she's not. I will be there. And this, I've said this once. I love doing it. I love running our own business. I love it. Some days are better than others. That's true with, I think, with anything, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with public. But I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I really couldn't. Because every day is a little bit of a challenge. And it's like, okay, what can we do today? And, some days you go away and you walk away from it and you're like, wow, we really got a lot of things done and we made some new friends or whatever, or made new acquaintances or whatever. And then some days you're like, what have we done and why? I don't know if I'm going to fire myself, I've done that a time or two. I fired myself and hired myself right back the next day. So
I understand that. I understand.
But it's hard. It's a hard thing to do to run your own business, but it can be very rewarding. And when you get that, she used the word, a sense of community. When you get that community, That's what makes it. I mean, yeah, the sales are great, the sales are good, all these things. That's what keeps the business going. But that community, um, and we've gotten that, and you've seen that. You've
Oh,
seen that with that little Friday morning group sometimes that shows
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So,
Or just any time of the
or just
day.
any time of day, somebody
know.
might just come in and they go,
They just plop down
just
and
plop down and they want to
have a seat.
sit and talk for 10 or 15 minutes.
I mean, if you had a a lunch counter there, it'd be the same sort of thing.
Well, we've talked about that, but
Yeah,
I don't think I have the energy for that.
you know, I don't know if there's anything harder than hardware than food service.
Yeah, true.
So, well, let's talk about one other thing, because I think a lot of people who will be watching this who live in big cities and they live in other parts of the world, and I'd like to hear you say some things about what life in a small town is like, and what are the good things and what are the hard things about that. I mean, I'll just say a couple of things.
okay.
Okay.
Um, I found that North Wilkesboro was a place that never changed.
Fair. We
And
both of us grew up. We both of us grew up in Wilkes County, so you know, I can't argue that.
and that's not a bad thing, because I mean, I've seen this in other towns in North Carolina, small towns. Like I was in Newland earlier today,
Mm-hmm.
and I did work up in Newland 20 years ago, and it hadn't changed any. The stores have different stores that, different restaurant. The restaurants are still there, but they're different restaurants. But the place hadn't changed. It's and I was talking to some people, that things just seem like the same they were 20 years ago. They said, yeah, that's pretty much the case. And which to me is interesting, because so much of the world is in constant change, and it drives people crazy, because they feel like there's nothing certain or nothing stable in the world. But you come to a place like North Wilkesboro and you find this is really stable, and it may not be, um, you may not make a huge living here, but you're going to have a stable life and a healthy life, because all the people are going to know each other. They're going to, and I would say, care about each other. Am I right about that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right on it. You know, like I said, we both grew up in Wilkes County. We lived there. We went, grew up there. Graduated high school. We didn't know each other until after we had graduated from high school. We both went off to college at some point, right? And we, and I've traveled with work and things like that, so it's not like I've been out of the country. Angie's been out of the country too. We've seen other things, and not everybody gets to do that, right?
Right.
And we realized real quick, I think, especially once we first got married, it was like, I don't know, I don't really want to live in a big city somewhere. I mean, it's all great and shiny and all that stuff, but living in a small town, yeah, like you said, a lot of different people. The pace is a lot slower. Yeah, we don't have all these different things, but we're not far. I mean, we're 45 minutes from Winston. We're an hour from Charlotte. We can be in Greensboro. It's not like we can be in Atlanta in 4.5 hours. It's not that big a deal if you really want to go and see some things. But as far as day to day goes, that's a good thing. Now, when people start talking about how things used to be, and we hear a lot of that, how it used to be and everything, and I get it, but those things aren't there anymore. They're,
Yeah.
and so it's not changed, but it's got to change a little bit. And it
I
doesn't have
see.
to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be and like you said, you in just the short time that you did live there, you saw a lot of change, and I would agree with that. I think the mindset of people in the community, some of the officials and things like that, I think finally started realizing, we need to do some different. We got to do something a little different. We can't keep trying to do the same thing, or else we'll just die. So
Yeah. And the assumption is that you won't die because we're just going to be the same way we've always been. But the outside influences have a huge effect upon that,
right.
on the community. And
I don't know how Angie feels about, I don't know if she feels sort of the same way, or if she says, I'd rather move to Charlotte right now. I don't think that's the case, but I
move to the beach.
maybe the beach. I don't know. He really likes the mountains.
I do love the water, but and I do love the mountains.
Yeah.
So,
I understand
other
that.
benefits. So, but we live in a beautiful spot because, I can walk out my back door and see the mountains and watch a beautiful sunrise every single morning. And same thing for the sunset. So it's a beautiful it's a beautiful place to be where we are.
It's a special place, and I feel very privileged to have lived there for 3 years, and got to know you too, and so many of the other people that are there, and feel a connection to the community that I don't. For example, I lived in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for almost 6 years. I don't feel that connection to the town of Jackson like I do to the town of North Wilkesboro. And I think it's because of the people. There are a lot of people in Jackson that I really like, but we didn't connect as neighbors. And that's what neighbors show up walking, they're walking downtown and they'll walk into a store just to say hello to their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens in your store. I mean, I've been in there, people walk in, they're not coming in to buy, they're just coming in, check on Richard and Angie, how you doing? What's going on?
That's
right.
true.
Here's an example. When we had flooding issues over the years, and and
Right.
things like that, and the street did, and at this one instance, we actually got flooded. We had about 6 inches of water in our store
During COVID.
it was right as COVID was starting. But we had 6 inches of water in our store.
Wow.
And it was amazing to see. I mean, our friends and people were right there on the spot. How can we help you? How can we get this? And we got the water out, and we were open the next morning, because this happened at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we worked, till 9 or 10, 12 o'clock at night to get that out, get it out of there, and then we were able to open up because so many people
brought us fans.
They were here, kind of squeegee water. Let me help you squeegee water out the door and
buckets.
do this, and it was really amazing. I mean,
there's something that I identified as a consultant, so I'm going to give a consultant's illustration here of what I saw in businesses, and not in your size business, but in large businesses. And I found that there was this difference between the executive leadership of the business and the people. And I tried to understand what that difference was, other than the fact that the people didn't have a lot of choice, didn't get to make a lot of decisions, that sort of thing. But then I began to see something else. And I realized that what I was seeing in these businesses is what I also see in these small communities like North Wilkesboro. And what I see is that there is a persistent residual culture of values that persists because it resides in the relationships of the people. And there's common values that cause people to be connected together. And I'm living in a neighborhood now where I don't know what those common values would be. I believe that they're here, but I don't know because it's difficult for us to meet and talk about it because we're different from one another, but it's somewhere down deep inside of us. There's something that unites us together that says we all want our children to be safe, or we all want our children to succeed in life. And I have a family that just moved in next door a week ago, and they got 3 kids. And I know that those parents want the very best for their children. And, and they're going to be eagle eye watching the neighborhood to make sure their kids are safe. And, and so I'm going to be watching for them, with them, and I'm going to let them know that because they're my neighbors, and I care about them because they're my neighbors. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also true of the people that come into your store. I mean, this is true of the people that I knew in North Wilkesboro. I'm thinking about Bob and Martha Nichols next door to me, and how my initial feeling in moving there was I was brought there by God so I could have Bobby Nichols as my friend, and he's that quality of person, and so when you find that, you find something that you share together, those values, but you also find that you want to take care of one another, and so that's one of I think the things that I saw happening in your store is that people have that kind of relationship with each other, and therefore it's a much happier place in the community because you all are there, and you're at that crossroads, a place that people come and they'll see their neighbors that they never see anywhere else, but they'll see them at the store because they're picking up some paint or they're getting a key made or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Great, I agree.
So I say that because I want people to know that I think what you have is very special, and it's worth celebrating.
Thank you.
And that's why I wanted you. That's why I wanted you on the podcast.
And I've said this more than once. People would say, "Well, what is your vision on the store?" And I said, what it really boils down to is, obviously people come in, we're going to sell them something. Maybe we're going to get them what they need, hopefully what they need. But then I want them to come in and I want them to feel like that they know us and we're sort of friends, and it's about that relationship, and, if they walk in the one time, that's fine. And we never see them again. Okay, that's fine too. But hopefully they come back in. And then it's like when they walk in, we go, "Hey, Ed, what's going on?" Hadn't seen you in a week or two yet. And that's, and it doesn't matter if they've been in there one time or 100 times. I want them to feel like they have been there. And that's really, because that goes a long way. It makes me feel, that's how I want to be treated. I want to walk in somewhere and somebody goes, "Hey, it's good to see you. Where you been?"
All that stuff I bought from you, I could have bought that from Amazon.
Sure.
Because I wanted to support my hardware store. That's why I call it, it's my hardware store.
Right.
And that's what I want people to know. And you'll be my hardware stores forever. So,
well, good.
Unless I move to, Africa or.
Well, I guess we could ship stuff.
Ship me another table that
Yeah.
Well, I want to have one more. I like to ask this one other question of my guests, and I don't. I'll just ask a question. What is it you hope for in the future? What do you have hope for? That's a big question. I know that.
It is a big question. Thanks for putting us on the spot.
But everybody gets put on the spot because I find the real qualities of people come out when they talk about this thing.
I think we're looking for growth. And growth can come in many forms.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily like monetary growth, but we want to expand our community that we're building.
Mm-hmm.
Friday was a great day. We had kids in from Wilkes Early College, and they were in and out of our store, just 5, 6 kids in a small group all day long. And they were in downtown walking around, just getting to explore all the different businesses in our community and learning something about it. And just to see, and this goes back to my educational days, I know, but to see the aha moment of, I didn't know that, or that's interesting. And when you see that glimmer or that light bulb kind of come on, it's it's thrilling to see that. So I don't know that it's necessarily, obviously we need to make money to stay in business. We want to see our store grow. We're working on expanding our local artisans. I used to go out and seek local artisans and, ask them if they would like to put, some items in our store. Now people are seeking me. They're calling me.
They're calling up Angie going, hey,
And, that's new.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
and
It is.
and like she said, when I was going to say growth also, we're always trying to grow the business. We're trying to grow the business. It's important to grow the business because things cost more. You got to pay more. You got to do this, so you got to always grow. But that, like she said, growth can come from not just the monetary side of it. I feel like if you grow your business, your community, then the other part will follow.
Yeah.
I think I really do. And I think it goes back to that communal, just relationship. And I feel like it may be slow.
And some days it is slow.
Some days it can be slow. And some days you're like, okay.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but it's yeah,
But we're always looking for new opportunities to grow. As far as what's a new avenue in the key business? What's a new way for us to diversify? Because we cut a ton of keys in a week's time, but what's a new way to add and grow that area, or what do we need to do differently with nuts, bolts, and screws?
And that goes back to how can we expand what we have? How can we expand our services to benefit the community? If it benefits us, then hopefully it benefits them too. And that's really what it's about. It's that relationship.
And we have that strong service element in our hardware store.
Yeah.
You can drop off a broken piece of glass from your window.
I need a piece cut.
And then I need a new piece cut.
I need a kerosene heater fixed. I need a lamp rewired. I need a handle put in some of this stuff other stores will do, maybe not large chain stores, but some stores will do. But you're not going to go. Most stores you don't go to, and we'll go, sure, we'll try to fix that, or we'll try to work on that for you.
So you're building community.
Yeah.
One sale at a time.
One brick at a time.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm glad to know you. appreciate who you are as well as what you do with your store. And I'm grateful for you having been on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having us, and we're glad to know you. We're hate that you're 45 minutes away, but it gives us an opportunity. If we can get away, we can come visit you.
Yeah.
Which we're still going to do.
And then you come to my house and you'll see opportunities for you to sell me more stuff.
We're not coming just for that, but no,
We'll make the list.
we can make a list.
We'll put stuff in the show notes to direct people to you, so that
Okay.
if they're driving up 421, they can take a little detour, come by, say hello. I saw you on the podcast, And
Absolutely.
my hope is that your example will be inspiring to people elsewhere, that they could do something similar, and also that people will follow the purpose of the podcast, which is, who do you know that you think I should know, and would you introduce us? Well, my purpose here is to introduce you to people that will come and know you because you have your hardware store.
I love it.
That's great.
Well, I will see you soon,
Okay.
one of these days. And I will see you all next time here on the Eddie Network podcast. And I want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment if you will. And we'll see you next time here on the podcast. Bye-bye.